Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Agree to Disagree. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host this week, Aidan Shard. Alongside me are Dean Gutik, Jack Asello, and Noah Schwartz. How is everybody doing on this fine evening?
Solid.
It's been a big week for sports, that's for sure. Big weekend, especially. We're going to start with a lot of basketball stuff. We're going to talk about some football towards the end of it. But, to start, let's talk about some of the big trade news in the NBA. We'll start off with the trades that actually happened. So first, CP3 going to the Suns. What do we think about that? Noah, you start.
All right, so let me just first say that isn't it ironic that on the 1-year anniversary of Cortica, when the Ithaca Bombers won, a year ago to the day later, Woj bombs were being dropped all day long. So that was funny. Yeah, in terms of what is going to be with Chris Paul, look, I think it's a great trade for the Suns, and we'll get more into this, but I think it's a great trade for the Suns. They now have a big three with DeAndre Ayton, one of the emerging young bigs in the league, and then Devin Booker and Chris Paul in the backcourt. They are really looking like a dangerous team. They are coming off that 8-0 performance in the bubble, so they're obviously have a lot of momentum going into this year. And it's got to be a great thing for the Suns fans. They've been a joke for a decade now, ever since Steve Nash left. And this will put them right back in the middle of in the thick of things in the Western Conference. But I don't know if it's the best thing for Chris Paul. I'll get more into that later. But it is a good thing for that team, and definitely Devin Booker deserves it. He's never made the playoffs, and he's an incredible talent, and now he'll get a chance to finally win some games.
I agree. I think this was really a move, more so than anything, this was a move to keep Devin Booker for a few more seasons, to try and do something with him, because he wants to win, and that's understandable. Getting him a co-star that can actually help him win games, this team can definitely make the playoffs. Chris Paul made the playoffs on a Thunder's roster that had nobody except for Chris Paul. I know there were other players, but he really carried that team. And now that he's a co-star, I think it's going to be hugely beneficial to the Suns. And the Rockets, sorry, not the Rockets, the Thunder come out really well in this. They're getting some good players, building for the future. They're ready to move on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Aidan. I'll say this: I think it was a win-win trade both ways. The Suns got CP3 exactly what they needed, especially if they want to keep Booker happy. That's the guy to do it right there. Him and Devin Booker will be a nice 1-2 punch at the guard. You got DeAndre Ayton, of course, who is a nice young center. But I think the Suns, the Thunder had the better of this deal. I mean, I just thought the Thunder got more in return. Kelly Oubre, who's a solid player, Ricky Rubio, they got other assets. They got more picks. They have now, I believe, 17 first-round picks in the next few years.
Unreal.
Which is insane.
It's unbelievable. 17, yeah, it's 17 picks now.
Those picks from Houston are going to be great. It looks like they're going to go into a rebuild.
In how many years?
It's over the next, I think it's 5 years or so. It's unbelievable how many picks they have. They basically control the entire future of the LA Clippers, the Houston Rockets, and then they have a bunch of other picks mixed into that. But really, they just are hitting it out of the park with these first rounders.
It seems like 1 year, if you go on the draft board, number 1 and 32, the number 1 through number 30 picks are just going to say OKC. That's how much assets the OKC has. But OKC, I thought, for the long run, won this trade. I think they got more in return. And next year, not only will they still be a decent team, but for the future, they could really do some damage. They could work. They have a lot of ammo to work with, especially if they want to do a trade or signings or anything. The Thunder have a lot to work with now.
Yeah, well, definitely. This is very few. Well, at least I always say you don't know what the trade's going to be until you got to see what the Thunder also do with the pick. But as of right now, this is a good trade for both sides. The Suns get a player. Chris Paul, obviously, he's one of the most talented point guards, but the biggest thing that you get out of Chris Paul is just the culture that he brings to an organization, and I think the Suns definitely need that. They've been stuck in mediocrity pretty much ever since Steve Nash left them. So this is a huge boost for them. I do think, with like Noah said, Paul, Booker, and Ayton, they're going to have a big three to build around for at least 2 years. I think Paul has 2 more years on his contract.
Yeah, 2 more years.
Yeah. So at least 2 years. Hopefully he can stay productive. I think he's going to elevate their role players. And just like Dean said, on the Thunder side on the OKC side, they're gathering another first round pick. Kelly Oubre Jr. coming off a great season. He averaged close to 19 points. So that's another good young piece to have. They have a building block in SGA. Steven Adams is still productive. They have a lot of options, and they have a lot they can do. Dort became a big star out of nowhere last year. They already have a nice core, and they're going to try and build it up from here.
So here's the problem, guys, I think, and this is going to be the challenge for Chris Paul. He's only made one conference finals in his 15 seasons. It was just 2 years ago with Houston, but he had never been there prior to that. He hasn't been back since. And in the loaded Western Conference, even though he may be on a team that can win and make the playoffs, are they the second best team or the best team in the conference? No, they're not.
Definitely.
You still have the Clippers. You still have the Nuggets. You still have the Lakers.
But this move is a way of getting Booker to stay more than anything.
Understand, but in terms of Chris Paul's legacy, he's one of the greatest players of all time that hasn't won a championship and has actually never played in the finals. Is he any closer to being in the finals today than he was yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't really know that's the case. And obviously he's already 35 years old. He's getting up there. He's on the back nine of his career. How much longer does he have to play at this level? And will he ever end up winning a championship? I think we'll talk about James Harden later. He sees that he needs to win a title now. Chris Paul's already at that stage, has been there for a few years and hasn't won one yet. Will it ever happen? And I don't know if Phoenix is the place where he'll get there. I don't think it will.
I don't think he's going to necessarily win a championship with Phoenix. But in answer to your question, yes, he is closer to winning a championship now than he did last year. Last year's Thunder were never going to actually win.
But how much closer?
They got closer than everyone expected. But they even when they were in the playoffs, nobody actually anticipated them making it to the finals except for me.
They took Houston to the limit.
Right, but what I'm saying is, Aidan, how much closer is he today? Because he may be on a better team and a team that has more star power, but are they really a championship contender? They may be a second round playoff team in the next year or two, but are they really a team that's going to be making the finals in a conference with LeBron and Kawhi and all these other big names? I just don't see that happening. Golden State will be back this year. Luka Doncic is coming. It's Luka's time. How close are they to being a finals contender? I don't think they're that close.
And that's probably why James Harden is so smart for wanting to go to the Nets right now. I almost said the Knicks, the Nets. So let's talk about that. It's not an official trade quite yet, but Harden is saying loud and clear he wants out of Houston. And the number one destination for him in his mind is Brooklyn to join up with the big, to make a big three with Kyrie and KD. So, Dean, what do you think of that possibility?
I mean, first of all I could say is wow. I mean, say what you want. I mean, I don't know how the big three would work, especially for Harden, who I always found is ball dominant, and Kyrie, of course, who has an ego. I always wondered, how is this big three going to cope together, especially since they're all superstars. All of them are going to want the ball. They all want to be the main guy. I don't think it's a bad fit. It could work, but I'm just unsure of how these three are going to play together. Granted, yes, Harden has played with KD, but these are different players now. Harden's going to be around a better group, and he's going to be on the Nets team who has two main guys. So, it's like I feel like that, they're going to all be fighting for the ball. They're going to all be fighting for who is the main guy. And I feel like their egos could definitely overtake that.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we saw what Kyrie was like as the second guy. We saw what Kyrie was like as the first guy. Neither of them worked out. What's he going to let?
Well, he did win a championship.
He won a championship, but only because LeBron kind of bullied him into just taking that second spot.
Yeah, he basically LeBron told him, shut up.
LeBron is not going to just let Kyrie come up and take the leadership role from him.
Well, of course not. But
I don't think KD or Harden
as a second
do that either. But KD and Harden are not good enough to carry a team to the finals, and LeBron is. LeBron was good enough to carry a team without Kyrie to the finals, which shows how insignificant Kyrie was to that team.
Sure.
So
there's arguments on both sides of that.
He hated being the second guy, so he went to Boston, became the first guy. He hated being the first guy because he couldn't take the pressure. And now, if Harden comes there, he's probably going to be the third guy. How is he going to like that?
Yeah, I agree with a lot what you said. there is truths, but there is also falses to what you just said about Kyrie and Cleveland. Like, yes, LeBron did get them to the finals without him, but you can't say the Cavs won a championship without Kyrie. Game 5, he scored 41 is huge, and of course, he hit the big shot in Game 7. So you can't
not insignificant, but
what
we saw them do well.
Basically, replaceable is the word you guys are looking for.
Okay, yes, replaceable. Yes, I agree with that. In terms of James Harden going here, I was talking about this with Dean the other day. There was a report that James Harden said he's in it for the long haul in Houston. I was talking to Dean about this, about how absolutely ridiculous that was. James Harden is one of the elite scorers in this game, one of the elite players. You could say he's an MVP candidate every single season. He's at 32 years old right now. Probably has 2, maybe 3 years left of MVP play in him. I'm honestly going to say after the amount of minutes he plays. He needs to win now. You don't have a championship. You're not wasting time going through a rebuild. So obviously I was expecting him to be a trade. Brooklyn, I actually do think is a perfect fit. He's played with Kevin Durant before. They know how to play together. Kyrie's going to be a question mark. And also in terms of Harden, Mike D'Antoni just joined the Brooklyn Nets staff. That's another positive. I bet why he wants to go there. And
I forgot about that. Oh, good point, Jack. I didn't even think of that.
D'Antoni's there. I'm sure Nash is going to run a similar system. And it's funny because Kyrie has been quoted as saying Nash is more of a collaborator rather than a coach. But anyway, it's going to be interesting. And especially also another reason why I think he'd be great there is because, say, KD, we don't know if he's going to be 100%. Even if he's 80%, he's probably still better than most players in the league. But even so, if he's not 100%, it's how perfect would it be if you have another guy who could drop 30 a game, 37 and 6 every night. Kyrie is going to be the biggest question mark about this entire thing. Will he be willing to accept his role? And the other thing I have to say, it's going to be important what kind of pieces they put around him, because if they're going to trade for Harden, they're going to have to give up pretty much all their entire core. Dinwiddie, the only guy, the exception I'll probably say is Joe Harris. I'll say LeVert, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen are definitely going to have to be traded, and probably a couple first-round picks.
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. Number one, I hope it doesn't happen. You guys know how I feel about James Harden, and you know how I feel about Kevin Durant. This would suck for me. That's number one. Number two, the fit is awful.
You're a Knicks fan, but
yeah. Number two, the fit is awful. Number three, the fit doesn't matter because they're going to win the championship anyways. So that's the first three things. Here's number four, though. And I saw this on a tweet yesterday from a New York Daily News writer, Stefan Bondi, and I love what he said. He said that if they were to trade for James Harden, the first thing the Rockets should say is, give us Kyrie Irving. And I thought, and I had never heard of that, but I had never really heard anyone say that. And I was like, you know what? That's a great point. Because if they were to demand Kyrie and then it was a James Harden, Kevin Durant combo, well, then, okay, I guess you can deal with it in terms of having just one ball and managing those two egos. But to have three guys and still they win the title with all three. I'm not saying they wouldn't. But to have all three guys, it's going to be hard to manage it. Obviously, guys are going to have to sacrifice and find different roles. But Houston has to get this trade to be somewhat equitable. And they need to get a massive haul in return because their whole future is in James Harden. Like, they have sacrificed everything to put a team around him that can win. And if they're going to deal him and give him up, they're going to have to get something really significant back.
We know it's going to be picks. We know there's going to be massive picks involved in any Harden trade. I could see a star coming over like Kyrie.
Irving should, yeah.
But at the same time, think about it this way. How much is, if you're trading away Harden and maybe even Westbrook too, how much is Kyrie really going to help you if you don't have any other pieces around them? Instead, that just takes away from, 2 draft picks that you could probably get. So,
well, here's the thing. Well,
trade him straight up for a couple young pieces and then big draft picks.
Good point. But if they're going to get Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert back, and you probably assume Jared Allen and maybe Taurean Prince, if they get those types of pieces back, all of a sudden you have a real team. I mean, those guys are great players, all those dudes. They can average 20 points or more a game. If you get Kyrie Irving back too, in addition to those guys, then you've got a real chance of being a playoff team in the Western Conference. And if you want to just deal Kyrie and get more real pieces back after you get him to Houston, that would also work. You don't have to keep him as a long-term piece. But the fact that you can have Kyrie makes it a lot easier. But that's why I don't think this trade is that realistic. That's the point I want to make. If the Rockets are going to make them give up Kyrie Irving, I don't think Kevin Durant would sign off on that, considering the whole point was to get those two paired together. And that's why I'm skeptical this will happen. Maybe it will. Maybe they'll keep all three. But if I was Houston, I would ensure myself that I'm getting Kyrie back. And if that doesn't happen, I don't see how this trade comes together.
I mean, do you want me to go, Jack, or do you want to start?
Here, I'll just go quickly.
All right.
Sorry. I actually disagree with you on that because I'm just saying, like, you're going into a rebuild. The last thing I need is yes, Kyrie Irving is a superstar, but I don't need a superstar that's going to have headaches and is going to complain that they're not doing well. Get a bunch of good, solid, most of the Nets supporting cast. I wouldn't consider them role players because, I mean, like last year, Spencer Dinwiddie, he averaged close to 21. He averaged 21 points a game. Karis LeVert in the bubble, he had like 3 50-point games. Like, these guys have talent. I'm not saying it's going to get to the playoffs, but I'd rather say get a group of good, solid players and get a ton of draft picks rather than one superstar who is going to be a headache.
Yeah.
And not going
I feel like if they get Kyrie, though, he'll be humbled because that'll be his 4th team in like 5 years. And he's gotten traded a bunch of times. His own best friend traded him away. Like, you're going to be humbled by that. And I feel like he might shut up at some point. I don't know. We'll see.
Of course. But here's the thing with the Rockets. And you mentioned this, Jack, of course. You know, if Noah, should I say, if they trade for Harden, they're going to have to give up a lot of assets. They're going to have to ask for Kyrie. But if you're the Rockets, you're still a good team. You get guys like Dinwiddie, who is a good player. You get Jared Allen, he's good on defense at center. But the Rockets, it may be time to rebuild if you trade Harden. The system doesn't work. You've seen that it's been house cleaning season for the Rockets. Daryl Morey's been gone. D'Antoni's gone. Westbrook might be on his way out. So if Harden goes, and let's say we assume that Westbrook goes too, they gain a lot of assets, but do the Rockets rebuild? Absolutely. You trade your guys away, then the system doesn't work no more. It's time to clean up.
Also, you're not going to bring Kyrie in because Kyrie's not a guy he's going to build a culture.
That's another thing. If you bring in Kyrie and you trade Russ, you trade Harden, you trade all these guys, I don't think Kyrie wants to be part of a team that's rebuilding and going under change. I think he wants to be part of a team that's going to win.
He won't stand for that. No way.
I don't know. I feel like it could work. And Houston really has no incentive to trade James Harden. Like, he's on a contract extension for the next 2 years. They can keep him. He's only 32. He's still one of the best 5 players in the world. They could keep him around, keep Russ, run it back, try and win another championship, and sort of rebuild the culture from within with the guys you already have. I feel like it's possible. We've seen them have great cultures in the past. I don't see why they couldn't do it now. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe Harden will force his way out, but I'm still skeptical. And I just feel like if you're going to give up somebody like James Harden, a once-in-a-generation guy, you get the absolute best return back, and Kyrie Irving would represent the best.
I'd also like to see Harden in Philly. That'd be a nice spot.
That could definitely be an interesting spot for him to end up, especially with the way, like, the East is going to be really, really strange this year.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, though. Do you guys feel like this is almost kind of if it happens, would be kind of a bummer for fans, considering last year was so exciting with all the dynamic duos around the league with AD, LeBron, Kawhi, Paul. Like, there was so much parity around the league. Now we'd be kind of back to the Golden State days, if not even above that, where you have just 3 guys who are so unbelievably great together that no team even has a real shot.
Except what's so interesting about that is that there are probably 4 teams like that.
Not really. There's really no other big threes around the NBA.
I mean, okay, maybe not big threes, but there are multiple teams that you could make the argument that, like, that cast of stars is unbeatable. You got the Warriors, you have arguably the Clippers, you definitely have the Lakers, you might have the Nets. Those are all teams that you could make arguments for saying there's no way they lose in any other season. 3 of them are going to have to.
Well, I just like the parody. I don't know. You guys let me know.
All right,
that's what
I agree.
Let's move on. Noah, your team made a trade today. So
relax.
What?
I said, oh, relax.
You guys actually did something in the offseason for once. No, I'm kidding. So why don't you talk to us about Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah, so Dennis Schroeder is going to be a Laker. I really like the idea. We had heard about DeMar DeRozan possibly being an option. I really didn't agree with that. Not a fit. Drew Holiday was an option. They apparently weren't interested when they talked to the Pelicans. So this seemed like a decent option, and he's a very good player, Dennis Schroeder. Coming off a 19-point per game season, 4 assists, 2nd and 6th man of the year, just behind Montrezl Harrell. He will be the playmaker that the Lakers needed all last season. They'll lose Rondo most likely. We'll see if they get guys like KCP, Avery Bradley back. But just having an extra playmaker, a guy who can score for himself and set up for others, it's a big addition. It's going to help LeBron immensely. It should help Anthony Davis immensely. And remember this too. with all this moving and shuffling around the league, we'll see what happens with Harden and Chris Paul and all the other stars that may get moved or dealt or signed elsewhere during this offseason period. The league is trying to set up to beat the Lakers. Like, they have a target on their back now. They know that, and everyone is going to try and design their team specifically set to beat on LeBron and Anthony Davis. If the Nets can do it, that would obviously be a ridiculous trio. So the Lakers couldn't be stagnant. They had to do something. And if this is the big move they make, it's definitely the right one because it fills a huge need and they get a really good player back.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal move for the Lakers. In fact, because they got a complete bargain. Danny Green, who I think was worth the lint in my pocket, is maybe worth more than Danny Green right now, and a late first round pick. So they pretty much got a perennial 6th man of the year candidate who averages 19 points a game along with 4 assists, and last year shot a career high 39% from 3-point range. Beautiful, beautiful deal for the Lakers. They now have 3 guys. Well, they have 3 guys who could score on their own with LeBron, AD, and Dennis Schroeder, and also they're going to be able to keep Kuzma. I heard you say they may bring back Boogie. Boogie, obviously, we know if he stays healthy, he could be a threat offensively. They can have a lot of scorers, so the Lakers could be interesting. And I agree with you. KCP should be the starting guard if they get Avery Bradley back. They still have Caruso. They definitely have a lot of pieces still. They didn't give much up for this. This is a beautiful deal for the Lakers, and until the Nets make a move for Harden, and perhaps we see what happens on draft night as of this moment, it's hard to say the Lakers aren't going to run it back.
Did someone say draft night? No, Dean, go ahead.
I mean, I'm going to have to agree with you. The Lakers executed this deal perfectly. I mean, Danny Green, when I say this, and I don't want Noah to question me for this, I'm not saying it in a way of that he held them back, but I thought Danny Green was the thorn of the Lakers team, and trading him away, getting a guy like Dennis Schroeder is exactly what the Lakers need. I honestly thought he should have won the 6th man. I know it may be surprising that I say that as a Clipper fan, but Schroeder should have won the 6th man. Schroeder's a great player off the bench. And honestly, he could start for the Lakers. He could definitely provide a lot of that scoring and defense that he provided in OKC. And I think this is another great option for the Lakers. Not only do you have LeBron and AD, you got Kuzma, and now you have Schroeder. So it adds more options to the table for the Lakers.
All right. So, but yeah, anyway, speaking of drafts, we are going to talk about the NBA draft. And by that, I mean, we have all prepared our picks for the first 10 picks of the draft, and we're going to give them to you. How are we going to do this? Do you guys want to go list by list or pick by pick?
I think we should go list by list.
I agree.
List by list. All right, Jack, you kick it off.
All right, so I did mine without any possibility of trades. I'm just doing it. The 10 teams that have their picks, they're just picking. I'm not doing any draft day trades. But I will say I do think some teams will make a move. So, all right. Starting with the number 1 pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they're going to go. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to go Anthony Edwards. There's rumors like LaMelo Ball will go there. That doesn't make sense. They already have D'Angelo Russell under contract for many years, and he's a great point guard. He's an all-star caliber point guard. You have Cat. I think they just gave up Wiggins. They need to get another wing shooter who can create his own shot, and I think that's Anthony Edwards. So he's a perfect fit for them, and I think it's definitely going to be Anthony Edwards. Number 2 for the Warriors is I feel like this always happens. Like a team that's great, the one year they suck, they get like rewarded with like one of the best players, and that's the case here. So the Warriors they're going to take James Wiseman. They have Steph Curry, they have Klay Thompson, and they still have Draymond Green. They need to get a big man who can stretch the floor, who can also stay inside. He can block some shots. He can grab rebounds. That's exactly what James Wiseman could be. If they decide to keep him, they may decide to trade the pick for something else, and because obviously they want to contend. So if they don't trade the pick, I think they will go with James Wiseman. Next up, going to the Hornets, I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is one of the most notable players in this draft. Obviously, his brothers and his outspoken father, LeVar Ball. So obviously, everybody has their eyes on him. I think the Hornets, they have a piece in Devontae Graham. I think they're going to add LaMelo Ball to that. They're going to try and create a nice young backcourt to move them going forward, to be the core of their team going forward. And I think that could actually work. The only thing that can get in the way of this is if LeVar gets in the way and he's like, no, we're going to a big market team and like we're not playing here. So that's the only way I can see that pick not happening. Going with the number 4 pick, and I hope I can say this right. The Bulls, I'm going to go Denny Avdija. Is that how to say it?
I think it's
Avdija.
Avdija. Yeah,
Avdija.
Yeah, I think it's a soft J.
All right.
Avdija.
I'll just go with Denny. Denny is a guy who can play the 3 or the 4. The Bulls, the new head coach and Billy Donovan. The Bulls, they have a nice. The Bills. What is wrong with me? The Bulls have a nice. They have a nice group of young players. They have Kobe White last year looked like he was going to be very solid. They still have Lowry Markkanen, even though there's questions about what they're going to do with him. They still have they have a couple solid pieces. New head coach. I think he's a guy that can fit right in there, and he can definitely help the Bulls establish a new winning culture. Going next to the number 5 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm going to go with Obi Toppin, power forward / center. The Cavs, they've spent a lot of assets in the last couple of years on guard play. They got Colin Sexton. They spent Darius Garland. Who is one other piece they drafted recently? Why can't I think of his name? Didn't they draft another point
Sexton?
guard?
I'm blanking too.
I am no.
Colin Sexton.
Yeah, okay, I said Sexton. I thought there was another
And
guy.
Kevin Porter, too.
Oh, Kevin Porter. Yeah, thank you. That's
Who was just arrested, by the way, like 2 days ago.
Oh, lovely. Anyway, I knew there was 3 guys. I thank you for that. So Colin Sexton, Kevin Porter, Darius Garland. We're not sure what's going to happen with Andre Drummond. I think they go big man here, and I think Obi Toppin is the perfect fit for them. Going up next to the Hawks, I'm going to go with Tyrese Haliburton. They need Trae Young when he's not on the court, even though it's going to be very few. Then you need a backup point guard. The Hawks, they have a very good, solid core right now. I think I like what they got there. They got Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish could develop. They really got something special. I was going to say they go backup big man, but they did take a big man last year in Bruno Fernando. So I don't know if they want to do that again. So I'm going to say they take a guard here. So that's why I'm going to go with that. So going next to the Pistons, they're also going to go a big man. Onyeka
Okongwu, my man.
Okongwu. Yeah, they just traded Andre Drummond. They want to get a new big man in there, and I think that's where they're going to go. So I'm going to go with that. Up next to my New York failures, the Knicks, every year they draft an incredible talent, and they ruin him very, very quickly. So this year, the Knicks, with the number 8 pick, they're going to decide to ruin Killian Hayes. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sorry, pal. But don't worry. Maybe you can find it. Hopefully most jobs will be back after the pandemic is over in a couple of years. So I'm sure you'll be able to find work once we have to release you. Alrighty. Next up, number 9 with the Wizards. I'm going to go Isaac Okoro. This one is simply best player available. The John Wall's coming back. Bradley Beal said he's excited to see what John Wall will bring. He doesn't want to be traded. Bradley Beal's obviously, as of right now, because we don't know what John Wall is going to be, is the best player they got. Okoro can play small forward and power forward. And this can definitely be a perfect guy because they're just going to go best player available. If John Wall can return to somewhat form, the Wizards could be dangerous. And finally, with the number 10 pick, the Suns are now going to go Aaron Naismith, small forward. This is a spot they absolutely need now that they just traded Kelly Oubre Jr. So they definitely need a small forward, and he can fit right in. That's my top 10.
All right, I'll go. I'm not going to take as long as Jack because, I go a lot quicker, but
I just gave descriptions. I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. Number 1, Anthony Edwards, obvious, just like you said, Jack. Number 2, James Wiseman. Not my favorite center in this draft, but still the best physical specimen, really an incredible talent. Number 3, Onyeka Okongwu to Charlotte. I love this guy. He's being heavily compared to Bam Adebayo, and he looks like the modern prototypical big man that we're going to have in this league for going forward. Number 4, Chicago is going to take LaMelo just because it would be super exciting to see him play with Zach LaVine and also to have him in a big market. I would love to see that. Number 5, Cleveland's going to take Avdija. It's just a good fit there. They have a hole in terms of power forward, and they can use him maybe as Kevin Love's replacement if he gets traded. I hope he does. Good for Kevin if he was to leave.
Yes.
Number 6, Isaac Okoro to Atlanta. They are trying to build a defensive-laden team alongside Trae Young. They just need to add a bunch of wings to do that because Trae's that bad defensively. They have DeAndre Hunter. They have Reddish. Okoro would be, I think he's the best defensive player in the draft, and they can use him on the wing. Number 7, Tyrese Haliburton to Detroit. Reggie Jackson got traded last year. They have a huge hole at point guard. They could use him. Number 8, the Knicks are going to ruin Killian Hayes, my personal favorite player in the draft. The guy who I compare to James Harden, but better defensively. I'm praying he becomes something special. I think he has the ability. Number 9, Patrick Williams from Florida State goes to Washington. Another wing, kind of like Troy Brown. They can use him there alongside Beal and Wall. And then number 10, Obi Toppin. I think he's going to drop a little bit, although I really like him. And Phoenix has a hole at power forward a little bit. And I think he is a good fit. He's being compared to Amari Stoudemire. And of course, Stoudemire was great in Phoenix all those years. It would be kind of cool to see him go there.
Nice.
I got the Timberwolves going LaMelo Ball at number 1. I don't hope for this pick to happen. He's not the best player in the draft, but we'll get to that soon. They should pick Anthony Edwards, but I just think that the Timberwolves are going to go with LaMelo Ball. Number 2, the Warriors pick James Wiseman. Number 3, the Hornets select the best player in this draft, Anthony Edwards. Number 4.
Edwards was 4. Wow.
No, Anthony Edwards is 3.
Edwards
I said
at 3.
Hornets.
Oh, I thought you said 3. I thought you said 4.
Number 4 is Denny Adviha for the Bulls. Number 5 is Obi Toppin for the Cavs. Number 6, I think the Hawks go big man. I think they go with Onyeka Okongwu. Number 7, I think the Pistons go with Killian Hayes. Number 8, the New York Knicks. Sorry, Jack and Noah. The Knicks go with Devin Vassell from Florida State.
Oh my God. Please no. Please no. That would be
Number
the
9.
worst thing ever.
That would be
Guy who
so
learned,
funny.
who forgot how to shoot like the next Markelle Fultz during the pre-draft process. Oh my God.
Why? Why do you have to say that?
Thanks,
I'm
Dean.
sorry.
Please. Did you see that video of him trying to shoot?
Yes.
He was like, ugh, like what
It's
is
like
that?
me.
I'm sorry, but that would be a Knicks thing to happen.
Oh
Oh
I'm
my God,
very
it would
sorry.
so be that.
Number 9, the Wizards select Hale Burton from Iowa State. And number 10, I think the Suns go with Isaac Okoro, small forward from Auburn.
That would be huge if he could drop to them.
All right.
He's just so bad defensively that I think he may have a chance to fall. We'll see.
I just want to say before I do this, in my defense,
That's
I'm not very good at following college basketball. So my list might be wildly off, but my top 5 is actually exactly the same as Jack's. I had Edwards going 1, Wiseman 2, Ball 3, Avdiha 4, Toppin 5. And then at number 6, I have the Hawks taking Killian Hayes.
That'd be a special. Trae Young and Killian Hayes.
Yeah, that would be something cool.
7, I have the Pistons taking Halliburton. 8, I'm with Dean on that. I have the Knicks taking Devin Vassell. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Vassell.
9, the Wizards taking Okongwu, and 10, the Suns taking Okoro.
All right. And I love Florida State. You guys know I have family that goes there. I'm a Jameis guy. I love that program.
I don't
Hamilton's
think he's
awesome.
going to-
If they take Devin Vassell,
I don't
even
necessarily
know
think
what
he's
I would
going to be
do.
good.
Maybe he will be good, but it's just seeing
But-
that video just makes me so uneasy about him.
It's more the fact
Noah,
that
do
like,
a jumper again.
after Hayes gets taken, you know,
Beautiful.
who else are they going to take at guard? They clearly need a guard. That's what the Knicks need.
Yeah, they need
Yeah.
a point guard desperately.
And he'll be the best available. All right. Do we have any other? Also, sorry if I was looking down that whole time. I was writing down your guys' list so I could compare them to mine.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're good.
But
Let's talk some football because I don't want to think about the Knicks anymore.
I know. Let's move on to
Maybe
football. Let's
try.
talk about how bad the Jets are. No, I'm kidding.
Go check out the live we did last Monday.
Yeah,
So-
seriously.
But speaking of the Jets did just barely lose to the Pats, which was shocking.
Thank the
And then the
Lord.
next week, the Patriots probably managed their most impressive win of the season. They beat the Ravens. And I want to talk a lot about that game because I want to know, does that show more about the Patriots being maybe better than we expected, or the Ravens being worse than we expected, or was it just because of the rain?
It was both. It's both.
Pouring.
Both.
Yeah,
Both.
I agree. No, it's definitely both.
Yeah, it definitely is both because, and I've said this before, people, you guys are like all hating on New England. Obviously, I hate them too. But at the same time, I think they're better than what their record would indicate.
I agree.
They should have beaten Denver. They had a chance to win that game. They could have beaten Kansas City if Brian Hoyer wasn't horrendous. So they had a real chance to be an over 500 team, and they just played terrible against the Jets. They deserve
one play away. They were one play away against Seattle too.
Yeah,
right.
look at the Patriots. Look at the Patriots schedule. They are like very, very close to being 7-1. 7-2.
7-2, yeah.
They were a play away from beating the Seahawks. If Cam Newton doesn't get COVID, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Broncos.
Yep.
And then the Bills was a fumble away, but they didn't look great in that game either. The only game that they truly looked awful in was against the 49ers.
Right.
Which was weird anyways, because the Niners have been so up and down all season.
So yes, right. So the point is that the Patriots are better than what the record would tell you.
The defense
and I think the Ravens, it's tough for them when they fall behind. We've seen what happens to Lamar Jackson when they fall behind. He's not the same player. It was pouring last night. It's hard to throw in the rain. And I just think Belichick's defense stepped up and made some plays. Now, am I thinking right now that the Ravens are the Super Bowl contender we all thought in the preseason? No. But at the same time, they played a difficult opponent last night because any Bill Belichick run team is going to be a tough out. And even though they might not be a very talented group, they're better than their record. They are a team that has a real shot at the playoffs. I still believe that.
Yeah.
They definitely are. The Ravens have struggled this season, and I think in the end it does come down to Lamar Jackson. He's not playing to the MVP level that he was last year, and the reason that isn't because he's a bad player. It's because teams have figured out the run, and teams have figured out that if you put an extra guy in there to just make sure he can't get out of the pocket, he's going to be forced to throw, and these receivers aren't good enough to make him to get separation. So he's not completing passes. He's taking a lot of sacks. His runs are going for 1-2 yards. And that's the big problem. So it's not that Lamar can't throw. We've seen it. He can throw, but he needs his receivers to get open, and he needs them to have space to make plays, which just means the Ravens need better receiving. They spent so much trying to bolster the run and the O-line that they didn't even focus on who's catching the ball.
Yeah, sure.
Hollywood Brown, great receiver, not a number one.
Right. And then they have Devin Duvernay, but he was a mid-round, like it was a third-round
pick.
And
Willie Snead is probably the best receiver on that team right now, and that's saying something.
I hope in the next couple of weeks, Des Bryant gets a chance to get on the field.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Yeah, honestly, they need like a big guy who can like go up and make a play, desperately. Like Aidan said, it's a little bit of both. Or like we all said, it's a little bit of both. I think this truly shows how good of a coach Bill Belichick is. You can honestly argue this I'm not saying obviously they're well coached, but I think we can all agree pretty much for the entire Patriot dynasty run, this is probably one of the worst rosters that he's ever had, for sure.
Yeah. And it's an awful roster.
Yeah. And it's funny because last night I was actually rooting for the Patriots because I'm still scared that because I'm thinking about it for me in terms of what the Jets want. The Jets are in a situation. They were a couple minutes away from beating the New England Patriots and ruining our tank. So I think the Jets are going to lose most of their games? Yes, but how fitting would it be week 17, Jets Patriots, Bill Belichick ruins us right then and there because he has nothing to play for. So I want the Patriots to win the next couple of weeks, get themselves back into contention to the point where they have to fight to get into the playoffs. That way he cares when it comes week 17 and he's not going to screw us over. So I was happy. I was happy about the Patriots, but Lamar Jackson, this does raise some concerns. He's in against like tough games and against tough teams that are well coached so far this season. He really hasn't shown up in some of them. The Steelers game he showed up, but they didn't win. I feel like the Ravens are only a team that's good when they're able to kill their opponent. They can't win close, tough, fought out games.
They don't. And not only that, Jack, the Ravens struggled to play from behind. We've seen it time and time. This Ravens team does not play from behind, and
they don't do well. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the Patriots they played their game, they won last night. But it's other than that, we mentioned it in the beginning of this segment, it makes me also think the Ravens are overrated. The team has not lived up to the hype. They're 31st in passing for a reason, with a running back at quarterback.
Come on,
I don't know. I still disagree with that though. Like
Yeah, me too.
Yes, Lamar is not the best passer, and he's a better runner than he is a passer, but I don't think the problem is him. I think the
It's
problem
not. Don't get me wrong.
is
They need a
who's he
premier
throwing to.
receiver, and I said last time on one of the episodes that if they traded for a guy like Allen Robinson, I do think someone who is established and tall. I think Lamar Jackson would be better off. Lamar Jackson doesn't have that pure number one established star on the team. But I just think the Ravens have not lived up to the hype, and Lamar, who's coming off an MVP season, I thought would at least progress after last year, build off of that. And I just don't think he's done that.
You're right.
It's been a tough season for the Ravens and the Patriots, honestly.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of tough seasons, Aidan, do you want to say anything about your quarterback, or you want to save that for a little bit later?
I trust in Jameis. I trust in this team. I'll talk about it at winners and losers, but I do want to say, we've seen what's happened with the Saints with a backup quarterback before, and we were perfectly fine. And I think Jameis Winston is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater.
Me too.
They're both fantastic. I'm not too worried. And again, I'll get to this. I'll get to this in a minute. But yeah, let's go to winners and losers. So Noah and Dean, you guys have winners this week, correct?
Yeah.
All right, Noah, why don't you give us your winner then?
I have two winners. First of all, congratulations to Dustin Johnson on winning the Masters. That is freaking awesome. He is such a great golfer.
Smashed it.
Yeah.
20 under.
Minus 20. Unbelievable. My second winner, and this is the more conventional guy, DeAndre Nuke Hopkins. Dean, how are you,
What did
bro?
I tell you? I called it.
No, Noah.
I called
That's
it.
gonna be mine. He was gonna be mine.
Kyler Murray off to his left, throws it as far as that arm can throw. Those little legs take him down the sideline, and there goes Nuke Hopkins up over three receivers, defenders, including Trey White, pulled it down. And the Bills lose.
That was one of those plays that, I was talking to Dean about this last night. 99 times out of 100, that play falls incomplete. The other one time it gets intercepted, and that just happens to be the 101st time.
Right.
That one time.
That was really an incredible play. I mean, and the catch was awesome, but people aren't talking enough about the throw, I don't think. How did Kyler move to that side of the field? That's to the wrong way, throwing off of his back foot mostly, and he just chucks it as far as he can, and it's a perfect throw. I mean, DeAndre doesn't have to move. All he has to do is just jump high. He doesn't have to move laterally at all, which was really impressive.
Yeah.
It was.
It
It was a nice throw. I feel terrible
Scared
for
of
the
Miami
Bills.
yet?
I know
It's
you
2-0?
guys. I know neither of you guys do because you're Jets fans. But man, that hurt. I turned away, and then I turned seeing the Bills with the lead. I turned back, and all of a sudden Hopkins was on the ground with the ball, and I didn't know what had happened. I will give Dean. We'll give Dean a minute to come back. Jack, give us your loser.
Well, to go off another, I can't. Not my loser's got to be Dean. I told him I was going to do this. I'm sorry, but I just can't think of another reason. It's just it would kind of hurts if they acted a little sooner. They could have had him over Diggs. And no, I'm just saying.
No, both of them worked out though.
Yeah,
The Diggs deal happened first, didn't it?
No. The Hopkins move happened first. But
Hopkins?
anyway, that's beside the point. But this just shows there's been talk so much this season. I've heard Devontae Adams say he's the best wide receiver. Julio Jones has come out and said he's the best wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins said, everybody, shut your mouths.
But the funny thing is, neither of them are the best wide receiver because we all know it's still Michael Thomas, who's done nothing this season, but he's still the best.
Yeah, Hopkins said, everybody,
that was unbelievable. That was probably the best play in an NFL game.
Play of the year.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. When was the last time we saw a play that was that unbelievable?
Incredibly lucky.
True, but also maybe since the Miami Miracle.
The Miami Miracle. I was talking about that with my brother today.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give my loser. Like Noah foreshadowed a minute ago, my loser is Drew Brees, but not the Saints. The Drew Brees out 2 to 3 weeks as of now, cracked ribs and a collapsed lung. That is a painful injury. It's hard to come back from. Ribs are so easy to re-injure, so easy to make worse. So I'm afraid that it might be longer than 2 to 3 weeks. The good news for the Saints is that, you got Jameis Winston, who's looking to have like his second chance to prove that he's still a good quarterback. And your next 3 weeks are the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Falcons again. So it's not that difficult of a schedule as long as you can get Breeze back by the time they play the Chiefs in week 15. I think that's got to be the deadline. You need him back by then.
The only concern I'd have, Aidan, if I was a Saints fan, is they're still, and I know they beat Tampa twice, but they're it's a close division.
Hey,
Yeah.
So if you
It is
lose
a
a
close
game, you
division.
could fall out, and that could be it for you.
See, I still think we get a wild card even if we don't. Even if
Oh
we
no,
don't.
I don't mean I'm not
But-
talking about not making the postseason. I'm talking about getting that home playoff game that you obviously would want, and the one seed too.
I'm not too worried about it, to be completely honest. I feel worse. The thing that I am worried about is Drew Brees and Tom Brady have been locked in a battle ever since Brees went down last season with the thumb injury. They've been locked in that battle for who's going to end with more passing touchdowns. Brees had a commanding lead, but then blew it all away when he was out for 5 games. And then this season, Brady has been throwing touchdowns much more often than Brees has.
Yeah, why does everything go Tom Brady's way?
And so Breeze currently holds to a 1 touchdown lead thanks to the 38-3 slaughtering 2 weeks ago. But that lead's not going to hold. It pains me to say, but Brady's going to end up with one thing over Breeze, and that's going to be passing touchdowns. And no, I don't count Super Bowls because that's a team effort, not a player effort. Anyways, Dean, what's your winner?
Can I please go after that disaster?
We're sorry, Gene.
You're not
We're not
sorry,
sorry.
Man. Come on now. You guys know you're happy.
I don't know it's not sorry, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm just happy for Tua.
Why does this happen to me? I get to see the Clippers and Islanders eliminated on the same week. I get to see the Bills get decked by 2 Clemson players, Deshaun Watson in the playoffs, and now DeAndre Hopkins. And nonetheless, it's 2 players that I loved watching in college, and it pains me to really see 2 players from the team that I love from Clemson just do that to the team that I love in the NFL. I have no further comment. Thank you.
Dean,
Anyways.
I just have one question for you. Like, after last night, and just be honest with me, do you, stay up and question, how did I pick these teams that are all losers and constant?
Yeah, no. I don't even question
Noah and I, we were born into this nightmare.
You chose this stuff, bro.
You chose this path. How does that feel?
Why do I constantly get clowned on the show, man? Let me have my
I can't wait. I can't wait until Dean can clown on all of us. Like in a few years, once all of our teams are garbage.
Well, let me put it this way.
My teams are garbage.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jack and I, we root for terrible teams. But even the Mets, and they have been terrible for a long time. They've won 2 World Series. The Clippers have never even been to a conference final.
The
2 times they had a chance,
one of these
they
days,
blew
Dean's
it.
going to be able to just demolish us.
Yeah,
and
sure.
we're just all setting ourselves up for failure. But
Dean,
who's your winner?
The day that I get revenge on all of you will be the greatest day of my life. That's all I'm gonna say.
I hope, for your sake, I hope that comes.
I'm very surprised that you say that. I'm actually very surprised you say that.
For Noah's sake, I hope it comes too.
To answer your question, Jack, I always think at night, how do I deal with this year and after year? How do I stick to this team? But I realized something. You can't buy loyalty and you can't put a price on loyalty. So you got to stick through your teams through the ups and downs. Anyways.
You also can't put a price on LeBron, but then you guys got Kawhi, and then that didn't.
And you can't put a price on joining the Cavs,
Kawhi
the Heat,
LeBron
and the Lakers like Noah Schwartz and the LeBron. Anyways, my winner is the it's actually a boxing winner, not a team. Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford with a huge win this weekend, proving that he is the best pound-for-pound boxer right now in the world in top-rank boxing. Great performance over Kell Brook. Terrence Crawford, I can't wait to see who he's going to fight next, but after his performance Saturday, and Max Kellerman said it on his show, of course, Terrence Crawford is the best pound-for-pound boxer right now, and he continues to prove that.
I gotta get more into boxing.
Yeah, same.
Speaking of boxing, guys, I want to point this out to our viewers who are listening. We may be having an interview on the show soon in the next week or 2 with Steve Weisfeld. He's a boxing judge. He's been doing it for 25, 30 years probably. He's done over 2,000 fights, I want to say, including some high-profile names, and we're going to have him on the show hopefully in the next couple of weeks to discuss boxing and this big Mike Tyson fight that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. I hope that happens. It should be a lot of fun.
We will let you guys know when that is happening. It should be, I just hit my mic. It should be coming up soon. But in the meantime, thank you guys for watching. This was a longer episode than usual, I think. We had a lot of fun doing it. Make sure to follow us if you can on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. That's all in our description down below. And follow us on Twitter. And thank you guys for watching. Catch us on VIC every Saturday from 10:30 to 11. We'll see you guys next week.